Beneath modern Alexandria lies a royal complex lost to earthquakes over 16 centuries ago.
These submerged ruins are believed to be part of Cleopatra II's palace.
Earthquakes and rising seas pushed entire royal structures beneath the harbor. Royal statues once guarding palace entrances now rest in total silence.
These markings link the ruins directly to Ptolemaic Egypt.
The palace collapsed piece by piece as the coastline sank. This was once a ceremonial entrance used by Egypt's last queen. The seafloor preserves the palace exactly where it fell. Royal symbols remained, worn but unmistakable.
This underwater landscape marks the final resting place of Cleopatra's lost palace.
Beyond the main ruins, more palace structures stretch across the harbor floor.
These columns once supported royal halls overlooking the Mediterranean.
Pedestals like this likely held statues of gods or rulers.
Earthquakes shattered even the largest royal monuments.
Greek inscriptions reflect Alexandria's role as a Hellenistic capital. Entire palace walls slid into the sea as the ground gave way.
Basins like this may have been part of ceremonial courtyards. The layout still hints at the palace's original design.
Animal statues symbolized royal power and protection.
Each fragment tells part of a palace lost to time and sea.
The ruins extend farther than originally expected.
Collapsed structures created hidden spaces within the palace remains.
This base once supported a monumental statue.
These steps once led through royal corridors.
Marine life has claimed the palace as its own.
Even symbols of power were brought down by the sea. Royal names survive, barely visible after centuries underwater. The palace layout is still readable on the seabed. This capital once crowned a towering column. Cleopatra's palace remains frozen in its final collapse. The deeper the divers move, the more complex the ruins become.
This wall once enclosed part of the royal compound.
Doorways like this marked transitions between palace chambers. Each base shows where massive columns once stood.
Even fine decorative work survives beneath layers of erosion.
This platform may have supported ceremonial structures. Statues were shattered as buildings collapsed into the sea.
The alignment suggests organized palace planning.
collapsed arches hint at once grand architecture. Together, these remains form a silent record of royal life. Some areas show signs of sudden, violent collapse.
Earthquakes fractured the palace foundations.
This may have been part of a royal audience chamber. Royal statues fell where they once stood.
Even palace walls were richly decorated.
Entire halls collapsed in moments. Entire halls collapsed in moments.
Channels may have directed water through palace courtyards.
Room layouts remain visible beneath the harbor.
Hellenistic design elements blend Greek and Egyptian styles.
The palace lies exactly where history left it. Further out, the ruins become more fragmented.
Smaller structures broke apart under the sea's pressure. These edges once defined palace walkways.
Decorative motifs reflected the palace's coastal setting.
Marine life now shelters within royal ruins.
Platforms collapsed as the ground subsided.
Pillars fell and fractured as the palace sank.
The palace pathways remain faintly traceable.
Craftsmanship endures despite centuries underwater.
The further they explore, the more scattered the palace becomes.
At the outer edge, the palace fades into scattered debris.
These trenches may have guided water through open courtyards.
Massive blocks were displaced by sudden ground movement.
Faces of royalty and gods were worn away by time.
Only traces of fine detail remain.
Outer palace boundaries collapsed into the harbor.
Open basins collected debris as the palace sank.
Even open spaces can still be mapped underwater.
Structural stress fractured even the strongest columns. Here, the palace gives way to open seabed.
At the perimeter, the ruins thin out into isolated fragments. Some palace stones were carried far from their original position.
Foundations remain where columns once anchored the palace.
Decorative details fade, but never fully disappear. Marine life now moves freely through royal remains. Some areas collapsed into shallow sinkholes.
Linear alignment suggests former walkways or borders.
The palace dissolves into fragments at its outer limits.
Some pieces are now beyond recognition.
This marks the farthest reach of Cleopatra's submerged palace.
Beyond the palace, only scattered remnants remain.
Some stones were displaced far from the main complex.
Natural forces reshaped the palace remains over centuries.
Time has erased much of their original form. The ruins now serve a new ecosystem.
Here, architecture gives way to open seafloor.
This is the last visible trace of the royal complex.
Much of the palace now lies completely hidden.
The scale of loss becomes clear when looking back.
Cleopatra's palace fades into history beneath the harbor.
Ascending above the ruins reveals the full extent of the submerged palace.
Even partial statues hint at former grandeur. Columns lie where they fell, untouched for centuries.
Inscriptions preserve a whisper of Hellenistic influence.
Even tiny fragments hold historical significance.
The palace sprawls across the seabed, fragmented but recognizable.
Each fragment tells a story of royal life and loss.
From above, the palace's layout becomes faintly discernible.
Looking back, the magnitude of history beneath the waves is revealed. Cleopatra's lost palace remains a silent testament beneath Alexandria's harbor.